Pro kind of hit it nail on the wall as far as, okay, this needs to happen. You guys need to get out of the way kind of thing, right? You need to have a unique charter. You need to have unique business acumen. You need to, some things that need to happen, the changes that need to happen. So collaboration was talked about, more, right? More get out of the way, more regulation needs to change. Things that we've already heard about, some of us who are entrepreneurs are like, you guys need to get rid of GITs. You need to overhaul the regulations, right? What the heck is up with this GIT? It's not an incentive. It's a burden to a lot of us who are entrepreneurs. Is getting in the way. Yeah, we talked about some things that are okay. These are impediments. These are not helping.
All right, Annie, we got less than a minute, so just FYI.
Okay. Guys, we're live on YouTube, so everybody wave good morning to our YouTube audience.
Yep. Morning.
So yeah, these are things that we've already heard before from entrepreneurs, from the business community.
Okay, thanks, Annie.
Yep. Okay. Don't even get me on that bandwagon. So it was good. Let's just say we shall see.
Okay. All right. Oh, the struggle is real. Do I have time to go grab my coffee? No, I don't. So dang it.
Boy.
All right. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to 1 Million Cups, where we kick off on time, whether or not we have our coffee, is 9 a.m. And let's see, do we have anybody? I have to look at this screen a little differently. Do we have anybody who's new here this morning? Somebody who would like to introduce themselves? I want to know who's on the bridge of the Enterprise, it looks like.
That's me, it's Marlene.
Marlene, good morning. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Marlene Brown. I have been coming to 1 Million Cups for a long time, and well, on and off. And I am a happily retired Sandian, and now I'm actually teaching solar electric at C&M. And if anybody wants to talk to me about that, I'm happy to. So
awesome. All right, welcome. So let's see who we have. Well, Michael, how about you introduce yourself this morning?
Oh my gosh, me?
Yeah.
I'm Michael McDonald. I've been doing Million Cups for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. I love it. I learn a lot about how the community is, and maybe sometimes get to engage with them by doing little projects and so forth. So that's me.
Awesome. Okay, so I cannot see names, but there's somebody who's got, looks like he's in a dungeon. Maybe not. He's in a basement. Who is that?
Richard Krukar.
Richard.
Yeah, where are you at, Richard?
Richard, introduce yourself to us this morning.
Yeah, Richard Krukar with Loza and Loza. Just showing up to see what's going on. Haven't shown up in quite a while.
Right? It's good to see your face. And then you froze.
Yeah, I had to hunt through Facebook, find the links again, but it's great seeing you all again today.
You too. Welcome back. And apparently I've been forwarding these without thinking about it. All right. So thank you all for introducing yourselves. So for those of you who are new to 1 Million Cups, just an FYI, we have an entrepreneur present their journey. And our mission is to lower the barriers of access to education, resources, and connection for all new and aspiring entrepreneurs. And we do that by having these events where entrepreneurs can meet each other, get access to resources, and make connections that they wouldn't otherwise make. And we have national and local missions. So we work towards our missions by creating a consistent program, meaning all our speakers are coached. We don't want them to pitch, right? We want them to share their journey so that the audience learns from their journey, And then they also share their challenges in their business. So we as the audience can either help them with those challenges or maybe ask them questions that help them think about their business in a new way. And there we are, that lone little dot out here in New Mexico. This is our Southwest region. 1 Million Cups does happen all across the country, 9 a.m. every Wednesday. Key pillars, right? Again, it's presentations, not pitches. We are not, right? We are not the audience to be sold to. We are here to help other entrepreneurs. We help make authentic connections. So when we feel, especially when we feel that two businesses might really work well together and combining their forces, we like to connect them. When we have breakout rooms, people get to talk to each other and get to know each other. And it's run for the community, by the community. And we want to be radically and intentionally inclusive. We want all types of business owners and we want all types of businesses. If you have a business that has at least one paying client, and as Paul likes to say, as long as it's not your mother, then please apply to present your business. We would love to hear from you. And you can just Google 1 Million Cups Albuquerque and you'll find the application. And when we say run by the community, this is our community organizers. We have Paul's daughter, Lisa Atkins, Eric Rins-Whitmore, myself, Sonia Doing, Adam Sparks Brechtel, and Bobsy Sinandale. And we all obviously have our own businesses, our own work to do, but we love coming here and volunteering and helping this organization continue. You can tell I missed the stage because my hands are flying. All right, and then, when we're in person, we normally have we always have some awesome sponsors. And so Fat Pipe ABQ is where we would meet in person. If you guys, though, are looking for a space, maybe you need to get out of the house once in a while and you need great internet, Fat Pipe is the place to go. Lisa's there today, and basically you rent a desk and you have really great internet and you get your work done. Then we have Loza and Loza Intellectual Property. They would normally buy our coffee. Thank you, Richard, so much for being here this morning. We have More Than Organized, who normally buys our creamer. So I cannot wait till we all get together again and be able to do all that. We also have Jason Collin Photography. He's here this morning. He's our official photographer. And just be careful because he will take screenshots. So my hair looks terrible today. So I'm kind of hoping you don't take a screenshot. And then we have Noventum Custom Software Development. And Brian of Noventum usually brings the donuts or he brings really great baked goods. So I look forward to that day where we can have more of that again. Okay, and that is it. And now we move on to our coach, which was Eric Rins-Whitmore.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Hey, and let's see. So I'll just jump into it. Eric Rins-Whitmore, and so every business these days is a tech business, especially now. But one of the things that I've often heard from folks with startups, especially going into an incubator, accelerator, you kind of in those early stages, but not necessarily just in the early stages, is the need to have somebody that they trust working on the tech side of things as their chief technology officer or CTO. But sometimes in a place like New Mexico, that's not always easy to find. So I was really excited to see the application from Jim Mortensen and Fractional CTO show up, because it's something that's been on my list for a long time as far as how do we get people to connect with those kinds of services. So Jim, I'll go ahead and ask you to get to go ahead and share your slides, and we'll be hearing from Jim with Fractional CTO in just a second.
Thank you, Eric. Give me just a second here.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Can you see that now?
Yeah, it only has to go into presentation mode though.
There we go.
Well,
thank you, Sonia, and thank you, Eric, for coaching me and improving my presentation. Before I jump in and talk about what I do as a business, let me just give you a little bit of personal history or personal journey that might be a little bit interesting. I grew up in Southern California, and at the time, California was the center of the universe in the tech revolution, and I didn't think too much about New Mexico. I probably learned that the capital of New Mexico was Santa Fe, but that's about it. I met my wife in college. She is a native of Santa Fe, and she's a 14th generation New Mexican, which I found very interesting at the time. I learned a little bit more about New Mexico history and understood that, wow, it's pretty interesting history. When she was in college, and when I met her, she mentioned that she had a rough freshman year because in the dorms, the people there asked her where she was from. She said, New Mexico, and they said, you speak very good English. So we moved to New Mexico to be close to my wife's family about 14 years ago and been here since. And been working for a company here in New Mexico as a chief technology officer up until last September. All right. As a chief technology officer since September, I've been a solopreneur. I help business owners develop and execute a technology strategy. Eric, you talked a little bit about a chief technology officer is frequently called a CTO by abbreviation, so I will use CTO throughout the presentation just for brevity. A chief technology officer is an executive level position focused on technology strategy and implementation within the organization. It often helps the organization effectively use technology and achieve their business objectives. So it straddles the technology and the business worlds. The chief technology officer or CTO leads the research and engineering departments of an organization. And in technology companies, it also often leads the IT department. In larger companies, that might be the chief information officer or CIO. In summary, the CTO provides technical leadership for the organization. So what do I do? For small and mid-sized businesses who realize that in today's world, every company is now a technology company, as a fractional CTO, I provide technical leadership as a service to help business owners align and optimize their technical strategy and resources so they can achieve their business objectives. Unlike hiring a full-time CTO, you only pay for what you need. So I mentioned fractional CTO, that's what I am since I started as a solopreneur in September. A fractional CTO is a CTO that splits their time between multiple companies. They provide the same type of expertise as a full-time CTO without the full-time salary cost. You might think of a fractional CTO as a part-time CTO, perhaps a freelance CTO, a CTO on demand for only specific needs for a specific transaction or specific situation that you have within your company. A virtual CTO, which could be remote, and in that case, often advisory rather than hands-on. Or an interim CTO. If you're looking for a full-time CTO, that process can sometimes take 6 months to find the right fit. You may want an interim CTO to keep you going forward on the technology front until you find the right long-term fit. So what does a fractional CTO do? I won't go through all of these for the sake of time. I just will focus on 2 of these that are a little different than what a normal full-time CTO would do on a regular basis. And this one is pre-acquisition or pre-investment. There is a due diligence process. And that due diligence is part of both the buyer and seller's task list that have to be done to vet the acquisition or the investment. A fractional CTO often is engaged in that transaction to help with the due diligence, either on the buyer side or on the seller side. If it were on the seller side, that would be an investor's CTO. Another area is post-acquisition remediation. Is that after an acquisition, there's often things found as part of due diligence that need to be remediated, improved. And Fractional CTO can step in there from the acquiring company or investor side to help with the remediation. There's often integration or a slight technology pivot after an acquisition or investment, and a fractional CTO can help in that regard as well. So when do you need a fractional CTO, or when might it be helpful for you? Rather than give a bullet item list, I came across a real world example a few months ago that covers the bulk of the points of what a fractional CTO does and when you might need them. This was an entrepreneur. He was a private investigator by career. He was not technical. He started a background screening company in 1994. So that was his startup. He apparently saw that as a user of background screening, as a private investigator, that things could be improved. It could be faster. Technology could help things out. The company has since grown to 120 plus employees and now has multiple websites for various target markets. I think most of us would consider that that's a successful startup. He's done very well. They had no chief technology officer. So the CEO saw that his company was suffering from several problems. The team was struggling. They were consistently missing product deadlines, integration dates for clients, and they had an amazing amount of internal workflow errors. These are all his quotes when he posted what he was looking for. He actually did some background research and found out that I need a CTO, but I can't afford a full-time CTO, or don't think I need a full-time CTO. So he found out that there's such a thing as fractional CTOs that provide technical leadership as a service. So this is what he posted in his search for a fractional CTO. And he said, I have a feeling that we're not getting our money's worth from the team, but I love them. That's a great way for a business person who also loves his employees. And this is what he posted as what he was looking for in a fractional CTO. And it's a great example. He's looking for someone to lead us with overall technology best practices. He was looking for someone who was part technologist, part technology therapist for the CEO and his sanity. And I thought that was great, and very common problem with a non-technical CEO having trouble understanding the technical team and what they're saying and why things were late. And he was working for someone to work as an advisor to the CEO and to put together a technology strategy to complement the business strategy. He absolutely nailed the reason for a fractional CTO and what a fractional CTO could do. Now back to my particular business. I started in October of 2020. Prior to October, I was actually a full-time CTO for a company here that was acquired. My first engagement was with my prior company. They had a vendor, Oracle, that they needed some help with. Those of you that know Oracle, their software licensing is rather complex, their model. And they occasionally, every few years, will do a licensing audit on their bigger customers and on their partners to try to look for more money that's on the table, that things should have been licensed differently, to see if they could pick up some more money. And Oracle came knocking on my prior company's door for a licensing audit, and they were not in the position to be able to explain to Oracle why they were in compliance. They called me back in to do some work and work with Oracle to straighten all that out. Second engagement I had was an investor was looking to acquire a company in the industry that I had worked in for 14 years. And they wanted some pre-acquisition due diligence done. They were looking at the industry, the competitors in that industry, the strengths and weaknesses of each of the competitors, and get a feel for the landscape before they made the investor. So they engaged me. In that case, they actually found me on LinkedIn and saw that I was a CTO in that industry and could help them out. Just a couple of weeks ago, I reached a partnership with the CTO Academy based in the UK. The CTO Academy provides online training for CTOs and technical leaders throughout the world. They had expanded their offering to include coaching or mentoring for CTOs and technical leaders. In the process of, I actually was taking that course just to fill in potential gaps in my experience, and talked to their lead CTO, the founding CTO there, and he suggested that I be one of their coaches here in the United States. So I'm one of 2 coaches here in the United States for the CTO Academy, and just getting onboarded now. And then this last one is one I'm working on the final contract, should be able to work that out later this week. And that is a company that is an established startup. Their objective is to sell the company by the end of the year. And they want me to come in and do a pre-acquisition audit to assess their technology and their operations, and identify any issues that need to be mitigated before they go into the full-fledged due diligence process. As far as how I acquire my clients, primarily through networking, referrals, or LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is my website. As far as how I engage with my clients, it's either an hourly rate or a flat rate for very well-defined deliverables. I prefer flat rate for fractional CTO services. One, because as a fractional CTO, it's a high-level executive type of work. The hourly rate is rather high. If we used hourly rate for everything, neither the customer nor I would be happy. The customer would not be happy for paying a high hourly rate for me to learn parts of their industry, and I would not be expected to be paid at that hourly for something I need to come up to speed on myself. And I wouldn't be happy because I would not be happy being charged a lower hourly rate, or that hourly rate that is palatable in the market for 20 to 30 years of experience that I have, where things I know and can do very, very quickly. The hourly rate that the market will bear does not cover essentially the value that I would deliver for those things that I am very well versed in. So flat rate is actually the preferred model. Some other options would be a retainer, so much money per month to be available each month for so many hours to help a company with technology leadership. And after a relationship and the value is established, there is opportunity for some equity to be more engaged with the company. I also do volunteer work. Just recently signed up as a coach with Activate New Mexico. My ask today is that you connect with me on LinkedIn. If you feel so inclined, I'd love to be connected, since most of my clients come through networking. LinkedIn's a great way for me to connect. And let me ask you this question. Do you know a business owner who could benefit from a fractional CTO, as you understand it? Someone who provides technical leadership as a service versus being an employee. And thank you for the time, and let me present today. I found 1 Million Cups to be a great networking organization, a great group of people to be involved with.
Thanks so much, Jim. And also, so yeah, and we sometimes we get touchy about the networking word, but we are trying to make those connections. We are trying to get the word out there. And I'll just say I really like the, what was it, the a therapist for a technology therapist for a CEO. Does anybody have any questions? I see some questions coming up. Let's start with, well, wait a second. Adam, I think you're first there.
Good morning, Jim. So
Hello.
Sonia had a good question, but I was also curious, you mentioned the coaching CTO. Is that like, it sounds really cool. Is that another way that people can invest in you? And what do you do there?
So this is, I assume you're referring to the CTO Academy and the coaching there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so CTO Academy, I will essentially do coaching for their customers, their clients, who have essentially signed up for usually a package of access to their training material and coaching services, typically packages of so many hours of coaching for so many months. So as they have customers who need coaching, have signed up for coaching along with the training, those in the United States would be referred to one of the coaches here in the United States, and we would provide the coaching. You know, from a business model perspective, they take a percentage of the rate that they charge their client, and the coach gets the bulk of it.
All right, how about Sonia?
All righty. Well, my question would be, what challenges are you facing in your business right now?
I think the biggest challenge is one of just, it takes time to grow the business and get to the point where you get the revenue that we're all looking for, that justifies starting a business rather than just being an employee. But that's to be expected. And I've been self-employed and had my own business before, so I know that it just takes time. And I think COVID is being hindering that somewhat. People are being very cautious with their cash flow, understandably. So it'll take a little longer.
Okay, thank you.
Richard had a really good question about IP.
Yeah, I work with a fair number of CTOs, and they tend to value intellectual property pretty highly, and it might just be the clients I have. But you didn't mention that in your talk, and so do you think that that's something that a part-time CTO would deal with? And if so, how would you manage it?
Sure. So, and that's a very good point. I certainly couldn't mention everything. One of the key areas of due diligence, and probably the most critical area of due diligence in an acquisition or an investment, is due diligence on the intellectual property. So I do, a lot of the due diligence focuses on assessing the intellectual property, the software, the source code that they actually have written. Most products developed today with software incorporate technology, intellectual property from other sources, whether it's in the public domain, whether it's open source software that's out there that has specific licensing policies, or third-party licenses from other vendors that you license, you pay money and you license their technology to incorporate. So you don't build everything. It's a buy versus build decision. And most software and solutions today are a combination of all of those things. But sometimes software engineers don't understand the legal aspects of the intellectual property that they can find available on the internet, but that doesn't mean that you can use them any way you want to. And so you need to do due diligence, and a CTO or fractional CTO would certainly need to be aware of and control the use of intellectual property that wasn't developed within the company. Another thing that might be interesting to those that have businesses here is that by default, a software developer, even though they're an employee of a company, owns the intellectual property for anything they develop, unless their employment contract, or even if it's a contractor, the contract actually says that all intellectual property they develop while they're employed or contracted by the company, that intellectual property belongs to the company. And that's something that a lot of business owners don't understand. And sometimes when they deal with contractors in the early stages that are not, don't have the best ethics, sometimes that will come back to bite them, that you'll pay a contractor and they actually own the intellectual property.
Thanks very much. Ben, you had your hand up a little bit ago?
No, yeah, I did. I took it down when you said I could go. So first of all, where were you when I had my software company 5 years ago? I'm not a coder. I basically did everything. I found everything on my own, which is ridiculous. But this is my thought. There are entrepreneurs. You can't make a lot of money from entrepreneurs because basically we have no money. Exactly. But we are in need of CTOs. I can't tell you how many people are, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm looking for a CTO co-founder, right? So I wonder if there's some kind of a way to make money offering this kind of gun for hire to these, maybe not beginning startups but maybe somebody with a family and friends investment, or somebody with a seed round. You alone could boost those startups by 1,000%, because they are spending so much time looking for you. And nobody's willing to give them a chance because they don't have something established yet. I just think it's a great opportunity.
Well, thanks, Ben. I think you point out a big thing. And where I was 5 years ago, I was heads down with the company and focused internally on my company's issues, not out on my own. But I think you're right that this is a very common problem with startups, especially when the founder is not extremely technical. They are not well equipped to, when they need to bring in technical resources. There's plenty of technical resources by contract, or that might, as an employee or for as a founding technical person, but are they the right person for the business? Do they have the right leadership? And what startups typically need is they need someone who can write code. Someone who can write code is not necessarily a technology leader or a manager, and not business savvy enough, perhaps. So some technical resources, software developers who are very capable can learn to become great CTOs. Others can't make that transition. The role of a CTO is very different than the role of a software developer. So it is important to bring in someone who you trust as a trusted advisor, who is really technology sound, to help you make those technology decisions as far as what resources do you bring on board, even if they're not engaged long-term with the startup.
I mean, honestly, you sold me already. You don't need to sell me again. I think what you're doing is amazing. I'm just not sure. I'd like to see you figure this part out, because there is a hole in this market that nobody's willing to fill. And it's just caught between, I'm an entrepreneur with nothing, or I'm in already A round. There's so many people who could use what you're offering. I love this whole idea of fractional CTO. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
A great testimonial. Hey, Annie, I think you were up next for a question.
Yes, I do have a question. So let me, I want to be sensitive to the way I ask the question, right? Because
Annie.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Because as someone who's done Sarbanes-Oxley and governance, let me be careful in asking this question. And I think this relates to governance and even intellectual property and cybersecurity, right? Because you're trying to temper the balance of, I mean, as a CTO, you've got cybersecurity, and you've got, as a chief technology officer, you've got the keys to the kingdom. So how do you balance the joy of a fractal CTO, and then you've got the keys to the kingdom, and then you're a fractal CTO? That's a very dangerous position to be in. I mean, as a CEO, I don't want to just hand you the keys to the kingdom and you're only a part-time CTO. That's very dangerous to me as a CEO. I mean, what's to stop a fractal CTO from walking away with the keys to the kingdom, number one, and the cybersecurity issues, and then the governance and Sarbanes-Oxley? I mean, how do you temper that balance? And I don't want one person to just, as a CTO, one person to be in charge of the keys to my kingdom to a fractal CTO. How is that going to be handled with you just being a part-time CTO?
Sure.
Help me understand that.
Sure. And you know, Annie, you bring up a good point, and every business owner should be aware of that with security, which is it's under the domain of a CTO if they were your full-time employee, and you got to be concerned about that and compliance issues. My background for the last 10 years, I've been involved with the payment card industry, which has PCI data security standard requirements in order to process credit card payments in particular. So I'm familiar with those type of compliance issues. I would answer your question by saying, at some point, a business owner has to trust certain people, whether they're employees or external contractors. You have to trust them. You can't build everything yourself as a business owner, nor can you build everything within your company with full-time employees. You have to rely on partners. That's just the world we live in. It's too complex for any company to build everything themselves. So you have to have some trust in somebody. You need to vet whoever you hire, and you need to vet whoever you bring on as a partner or as a contractor, part-time or full-time. Compliance requirements, as you know, Annie, require that you document who's responsible for what when you bring in an outside resources, whether it's a partner, and who's responsible for what aspects of the security. And that needs to be well documented for compliance requirements as for security, to make sure that you've got your bases covered. There's always the possibility that a bad actor, whether they're an employee, part-time or full-time, contractor, part-time or full-time, partner, can impact your businesses. You protect yourself the best you can with the contract and the agreement that you have with them, and you make sure it's clear who has what responsibilities.
Right. So is that then written in the agreement that you have that contractual agreement and obligation that you cover the ethics part of it, and that you're not the only one that has the keys to the kingdom, and the owner says, okay, right, this is our contractual obligation, that you are not, you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So do you write that into the contract?
As a business owner, if you are actually doing the contract with any type of a contractor, technical in particular, fractional CTO, you should be asking those questions to make sure that they're addressed to your satisfaction. If your business requires compliance, whether it's HIPAA or Sarbanes-Oxley or payment card industry data security standard, you should already know that you have to comply with certain things, and that any contract you have with a third party that could impact the security of your systems, you need to have those responsibilities outlined clearly, and so you need to do that. And one thing, Annie, that might alleviate some, as a fractional CTO, I don't necessarily have keys to the kingdom. One thing that's different, a fractional CTO typically doesn't write code. A fractional CTO doesn't typically need access to your Amazon cloud, AWS cloud account. Certainly not to be able to change things, because a fractional CTO typically does not actually need to change anything hands-on. They could, and if you wanted me to, I could, where I have the ability to do hands-on work, I could do that. But typically, it's a leadership position. What you're exposing is your environment, so I can see what it is that has some security risk if it were a bad actor that you provided information about your systems. But yeah, you need to protect your business in the contract as best you can. Make your best judgment on who you can trust and who you're not comfortable trusting. Trust your gut, but you got to trust somebody.
Well, so I think
let's Annie. Actually, if Jim's going to be on in the breakout room afterwards,
okay.
So I'd like to hit the other questions before we go to the break. Next up is Sonia.
All right, thank you.
All right, and actually, I guess I should introduce myself a little bit too. So I am Sonia Doing. I am founder of Plot Duckies, which is a publishing company, and founder of Women's Thriller Writers Association. But my background is really in marketing. And one thing, and I love the fact that you are hyper focused on LinkedIn. Beautiful place to be, right, for the people you're looking for. My question is, have you, and I did look at your LinkedIn, I didn't see that you're posting any articles, and I'm wondering if you've been thinking about maybe posting articles about being a CTO or fractional CTO, and maybe that would get more eyes on what you do.
Yeah, Sonia, you're absolutely right. That's something that I should be doing. It just hasn't hit my plate yet. Those that have done that, I haven't done that, so it's not easy for me to go there. Realize that it takes some time and it takes effort. Being relatively new since mid-October, I just haven't gotten there, but you're absolutely right. If LinkedIn is a great resource for if you expand by posting content, it would help me, no question about that.
Yeah, and I know how you feel. Like I love to write, but I hate blogging. But I know every time I blog, I get probably around 200 to 500 total new people to my website. So I feel like you might want to put that up higher on your list of to-do, and just maybe even just outline maybe 10 different articles and start thinking about which ones you think would be the easiest to write.
Well, thanks, Sonia. That's great feedback, and I may have to get back to you to get some tips on how to go about doing it.
Okay, sounds good. Just don't forget a hashtag.
Let's see. I think Michael had a question earlier.
Yeah. I mean, this idea of being a fractional CTO had me swimming in a few different thoughts, and most of them were kind of like what size are your fractions? How do you manage the boundaries between the fractions? Like somebody wanting a lot of your, or you having to study up on 2 industries at once, or somebody wanting a lot of your time when maybe they've only paid for a little bit. What do you do when the fractions that you've put out for subscriptions, just because of those maybe boundary issues, adds up to over 100%? And do you have any plans to scale beyond that 100% fraction?
No, great question. Currently, I don't have that problem. But that's a problem I would like to have, and it would be solved in, I think, one of 2 ways. One is to expand beyond being a solopreneur and turn into a company where it provides fractional CTO services, and I bring on some other CTOs. The other option is to remain a solopreneur and pick and choose the engagements that are most rewarding to do. And in business, a CTO, a full-time CTO, doesn't normally work 40 hours a week. They usually work much more than that. So, my 100% is not 40 hours. My 100% is not 40 hours a week. It's much more than that. So, always learning and stay on top of technology. But yeah, I hope I get to that point where I have that problem where I can't do it myself, that I'm overloaded, and I will need to make a call at that point, whether I want to remain a solopreneur or expand the business and bring on other resources.
Do you think that there's anything fundamental, like in what you've been doing, that would be better, like I say, that you could have a an advantage over just a bunch of guys becoming CTOs, or a bunch of people becoming fractional CTOs, in their own sole entrepreneur kind of companies?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you asking whether or not having a business that had a group of CTOs that provided services would be better than individuals?
Well, I guess I can imagine a group of lawyers come together as a law firm, a group of accountants come together as accounting firms, but a lot of times those are just a bunch of solo practitioners that are more or less sharing an office and maybe a little bit of expertise, but not like something that has some core, the difference between a doctor's office and, say, a hospital, right, where there's some core interoperation between all the people working. Do you see anything that would come out of that would give you a core advantage to being a business?
I think there are advantages to having a group of fractional CTOs working together with the same organization, and there are companies that actually do that and offer that services. The advantage is that no CTO or fractional CTO knows all the industries and is an expert in everything. So having a group of fractional CTOs would have the benefit of a law firm that has a group of attorneys, where some attorney might focus on bankruptcy and that's their area of expertise, and another attorney might focus on personal injury. So having a group of fractional CTOs that have a variety of experience and expertise in different industries would allow you to assign a fractional CTO from your organization that is a best fit for the client. So yes, there are. And to right now, I would need to turn away some business where I am not the right fit for the organization. And at best, I could just help them find another fractional CTO that could help them, that was a better fit for them.
All right, and I'm going to go to Phil for our last official question from the group.
Hi, Jim. Phil Wilton, founder of Strategic Global Group. I guess there are other people, and from the questions that have been asked here today, that and the statements they've made, that I'm not sure what a fractional CTO is. So I think you have, I think you've got a marketing challenge here, because when you came on and said you're a fractional CTO, I hadn't got a clue what you're talking about. I know what a CTO is, didn't even know what a fractional CTO is. So I guess that alludes to a little bit about what Ben was saying earlier. I mean, he thinks it's a great idea, and I do, but you've got to find a way of bridging that gap where people don't understand what that terminology is. And secondly, like Sonia, I've been looking at your LinkedIn. There's a couple of things that you can do on your LinkedIn. You said your LinkedIn is your CV, effectively. It is somewhat busy, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it needs to have a flow to it. But one of the two things that I want to comment on, and Sonia said one of these about writing articles. You can do two things on LinkedIn. You can write articles and you can post posts, all right? Posts would be something that you can do almost on a daily basis if you want. And you have a limited number of words, I think 200, that you can put in a post. So you can write how you solve simple problems for companies, like you did earlier when you was giving some examples, okay, in your slides. And you can write posts about how you solve those problems for companies. You could write a post about the question Annie asked, about what agreements I put in place to make sure that your keys to your castle stay with you. And the other one you can do is, as Sonia said, was articles. I've done articles and I've got over 30,000 reads on my articles, all right, and climbing. So I think there are a couple of things that you can do there. And what will happen with that is you'll get, when you have a read of your article, the LinkedIn will let you know how many people are actually reading it. And on your posts, they do exactly the same thing. But what they do on posts is, if you look at the number of people that have read your article, it tells you what business title they are or who they are. It tells you what industries they're in, and it tells you where they're reading from. So you get a lot of good information that you can use to market yourself on LinkedIn. And you can increase your 250 connections. If you've got 250 connections on LinkedIn, you're not getting a lot of views. Okay, you need to bring that up to 1,000, and that means you accept anybody that comes to you for a LinkedIn, and you go out and search people and say, "Can I connect with you?"
Thanks for the feedback, Phil. Points taken. Glad you mentioned posting in addition to articles, and yes, increasing my connections. I tore down all my connections at the beginning for people I had no idea who they were, and built up from scratch. Mm-hmm. And I'm continuing to build that. So all good points, well taken. And especially the fractional CTO, I understand that's a very, that's what I call myself. The service I provide is technical leadership as a service, and that's probably a better description as from a marketing perspective is, pay for technical leadership as a service versus paying for full time. So pay for only what you need. Good points. Thank you, Phil.
You could do a post on that on fractional CTOs, just to let people know.
To explain what a fractional CTO is, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to thank everybody who's made questions and comments. I've got a couple of our standard questions to kind of wrap things up. First of all, and I see it on the next slide in the wings, red or green?
Being an engineer and a little bit OCD, I prepared a slide for this. To me, it's all about the meat. Beef is red, chicken's green, and pork is red. There are some exceptions to that. Hamburgers are always green, and green chili stew, obviously green, and eggs can be red or green, but I never mix.
Never mix. Wow. I appreciate the use, the use cases is
I
really
would be
important
interested
sometimes.
to survey other engineers to see if they come up with the same answer.
I was going to create a matrix, but I thought that was over the top.
And the last question we have for everyone, and again, Jim will be available in a breakout room in just a couple minutes. But what can we as a community do today, do this week to help you continue to grow your business?
Connect with me on LinkedIn and think of any businesses that you may know that may suffer from some of the same concerns or issues that the one example I gave, the private investigator who started a background check company and the problems he was seeing as a business owner with this, dealing with the technology, not being technical himself. If you know of any businesses that are like that you think might benefit from technical leadership as a service versus hiring a full-time employee, help me get in contact with them. Love to talk with them.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you presenting this morning. I am also I'm the person who stands between folks and the breakout rooms. So I'm going to share a few different events. I'm going to try and go pretty quick. This Friday, we've got Adam's Friday Flow, how to experiment with business. That looks like fun. That's from 9 to 10 a.m. on Friday. These will be in the chat in just a second. Also on Friday, Activated NM returns with their New Mexico startup office hours, and that's running from 1 to 3 p.m. Mentioned last week, and they mentioned application deadline has been extended, but the Creative Startups Food Lab in Santa Fe, that kicks off in March, and they're taking applications into February. Next Sunday, let's see, there's a really powerful event that's coming up that's put together by, it's called Standing Together Against Racism, and that's been put together by the Jewish Federation of New Mexico and Burke Against Racism. It features Bernice King and a couple of other folks from the, let's see, from the Martin Luther King days of the movement to movement against racism, and that should be a powerful event. That's on Sunday, the 24th. On Saturday, the 30th, Santa Fe Innovates has a great workshop coming up. That's New Year, New Start, Entrepreneurs with Vision for Good, and that runs from 9 a.m. to 12. Activate NM has a kickoff series, or kicks off their speaker series in February. And there's a Civic Tech Hackathon with Code for Albuquerque that's going to go on this spring. So I put some information and some links about all of those in the chat.
Also, our friend JJ shared some things.
Oh, I missed it.
From the Hispano Chamber. He shared a link to their events.
I did. One of the ones that I would highlight is, thank you, Sonia, I appreciate that, is 2 networking events that we have primarily for small businesses. One's called Get Crafty. We're trying to do a mashup with previous ones that used to be on site, and these are all still virtual. And then we have one called Biz Gratis, and that's for just new businesses. But the one that I would recommend, if you're interested, Jim, it might be something to think about, is our procurement series. So it just helps businesses get an understanding of what procurement is and how you can help your business if it's scaling, if it's wanting to develop contracts, from a government standpoint, state and federal. So pretty cool information. But yeah, I shared the link, so I appreciate that.
That sounds good. And I think we're all being whisked into rooms. There's the 2 rooms. We just want to put those in chat, Lisa?
Yeah, I've done it a couple times. So we've got a room with Fractional CTO if you want to talk more with Jim. And then we have a 2021 Goals for Business. I've pre-assigned those who asked for it, and you're welcome to hop along